He hired her to be his fake girlfriend. But someone else was willing to kill for real. Selena had always thought of herself as practical, not romantic. She didn't believe in fairy tales anymore, not after life had shown her how easily they could fall apart. She was a companion for hire, a woman who wore borrowed dresses and borrowed smiles for a living. Men paid for her company, her laughter, her warmth, not her heart, never her heart, that part she had locked away years ago. When Damian Hale called her agency, he asked for someone who could play the part of a loving girlfriend, not too clingy, not too cold, just believable. He was a billionaire, but not the usual type, quiet, sharp-eyed, withdrawn, the kind of man who seemed to live behind invisible glass. His request was simple: accompany him to a charity gala and make sure the gossip pages saw him happy. Selena accepted. She needed the money, and she had done this before, yet something about his voice on the phone stayed with her, low, controlled, but cracked around the edges like a man trying not to remember something. When she met him at the hotel lobby, she almost forgot to breathe. Damian was tall, dark suit perfectly cut, eyes the color of storm clouds, polite but distant. He looked at her not like a man appraising beauty, but like one checking for danger, as if even affection might bite. "You look lovely, Selena," he said quietly. "Shall we?" At the gala, they played their parts perfectly. Cameras flashed, laughter echoed, people whispered about the mysterious woman on Damian's arm, but when he looked at her across the table, something real flickered in his expression, and she felt it too, the kind of spark that made her forget this was just a job. Later that night in the car he thanked her, his voice softer than before. "You made me look alive again," he said, almost to himself. She smiled. "That's part of the service," she joked, but he didn't smile back. He only said, "You did more than that." And for the first time, she wondered if pretending to care could ever turn into something real. Over the next few weeks, Damian called again, first for another event, then for dinner, then for quiet evenings in, always formal, always polite. But the line between act and reality blurred. He began to tell her about his past, about the woman he was once engaged to, Tiana. "She left," he said one night, staring out at the city lights from his penthouse balcony. "No note, no closure, just disappeared." He took a slow breath. "Sometimes I think she's still watching." Selena didn't know how to respond. There was something in his tone that chilled her, sadness wrapped in guilt, but also fear. Then small things began to happen. She found roses left at her apartment door without a name. Her phone rang at odd hours, silent on the other end whenever she answered. Once, she saw a figure standing across the street, a woman's silhouette that vanished when she looked again. When she told Damian, he grew quiet, then simply said, "Ignore it, she wants attention." His eyes hardened. "That's how Tiana works." Selena's pulse quickened. "You think it's her?" He hesitated. "I know it is." After that night, she couldn't shake the feeling of being followed. She started noticing things out of place. A moved coffee cup, an open window she swore she closed. The lights turned on even when she was sure she had turned them off. Still, she stayed, because somewhere between fear and fascination, she had fallen for him. The cold man with haunted eyes, the one who thanked her too softly, who sometimes looked at her like she was his only link to sanity. One evening, Damian invited her to stay over after dinner. Not in a romantic way, more like a man too tired to be alone, she agreed, and when she woke in the middle of the night, she heard him talking softly in another room. She walked quietly toward the sound, and froze. Damian stood in his study, whispering into his phone, "Tiana, please stop." Selena stepped back and accidentally hit the doorframe. He turned, startled, eyes wide like a man caught doing something forbidden. "Selena," he said, voice breaking. She swallowed. "Who were you talking to?" He hesitated too long, then said, "No one." She nodded slowly, like she believed him, but said nothing else. Then came the message that broke her, a text from an unknown number. "He's lying, I never left." Selena stared at the message on her phone until the screen dimmed. Her fingers trembled. She looked at Damian, who was standing by the window, looking out absently. He looked like a man carved out of guilt. "Damian," she whispered, "I got a message." She showed him the screen. He read it, jaw tightening. "Delete it and block the number," he said, too quickly. "It's her again." "How do you know?" she asked. His silence was her answer. He ran a hand through his hair, eyes distant. Because she used to say that, whenever we fought, I never left. It was her way of reminding me that she was always in control. Selena wanted to believe him, but doubt had already settled in her chest like smoke. Each time she looked at him, a voice whispered that something was definitely off about him. That night, she returned to her apartment alone. She checked the locks twice, the windows 3 times, yet still couldn't sleep. The shadows in her room felt alive. At midnight, her phone buzzed again, another message. "He'll do to you what he did to me." Her heart hammered. She typed back before she could think, "Who are you?" A moment passed, then came the reply. "Come to 72 Willow Lane. See the truth for yourself." Selena knew that address. It was Damian's old townhouse, the one he said he sold after Tiana disappeared. Curiosity burned through fear. She told herself she'd only drive past, just to see. The street was dark, quiet. The house stood at the end, windows dark, paint peeling, yet the porch light glowed faintly, as if someone waited. She stepped out of the car, wind brushing against her coat. Every instinct screamed for her to leave, but she climbed the steps and pushed the door. It creaked open, unlocked. Inside smelled of dust and old perfume, the kind that lingers long after its wearer is gone. She found a switch and turned it on. The house was empty except for a few old furniture lying around. She moved carefully, then stopped. On the old wall hung photos. Damian and a woman, smiling, happy. But in every frame Damian's face had been scratched out. Selena's breath caught, then a whisper came from behind her, soft and close. "He said he loved me too." She turned sharply. A woman dressed in black stood in the doorway, stunning, pale skin, dark hair, eyes sharp and cold. "Tiana. You shouldn't be here though," she said calmly. "He doesn't like when people try to know the truth." Selena tried to speak, but her voice broke. "You disappeared." Tiana tilted her head. "Is that what he told you? That I ran away?" "He's good at that, twisting stories until you believe him." She stepped closer, her gaze steady. "He tried to do the same with me, make me question myself, until I wasn't sure what was real anymore." Selena took a step back. "You're lying." "Am I?" Tiana asked. "Or is he?" Before Selena could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway, slow, deliberate. Damian emerged from the shadows and froze when he saw her. "Selena, what are you doing here?" Tiana's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, Damian," she said softly, "still pretending you're the victim?" Damian's jaw clenched. "Leave her out of this." "You said the same about me once," Tiana replied. "Remember how that ended?" Selena looked between them, confusion and fear twisting inside her. "What happened between you two?" she demanded. Neither spoke, the air thick with secrets. Finally Damian said, "She became obsessed. She followed me everywhere. She ruined everything. I tried to end it, and she—" Tiana interrupted, laughing bitterly. "He's lying again, Selena. I didn't disappear. He once locked me in this house for weeks because I knew about his deepest secret, but I escaped." Selena's stomach dropped. Damian stepped closer. "Don't listen to her. She's dangerous." But Tiana's eyes glistened. "You still have the recordings, don't you, Damian? The ones you made of our fights? Of that night? Show her. Prove your innocence." Damian's silence stretched too long. Selena felt the room spin. "Recordings," she repeated. He looked at her finally. "I kept them for protection," he said. "She threatened me." Tiana shook her head slowly. "Play one," she said, voice low. "Let her hear how you sound when you lose control." Damian's hand tightened into a fist, veins showing at his temple. Selena realized she didn't know which of them she should fear more. "You have to believe me," he said softly. But Selena stepped back, shaking. "You said you were the victim." "I am," he insisted. "I loved her, she ruined my life then, and now she's doing it again." Tiana laughed quietly. "Now you see, Selena, you were never special, just the next replacement." Tears stung Selena's eyes. "Stop it," she whispered, but they both kept talking, their voices overlapping, accusations, denials, truths that no longer mattered. Then she quietly turned and walked out of the house. She left, running into the night, the cold air burning her lungs. Behind her she heard Damian calling her name, pleading, but she didn't look back. She drove until dawn, until the city turned golden again, trying to convince herself she was free. For 2 days, she ignored her phone, tried to sleep, tried to forget. He kept calling her phone, sending texts that everything wasn't as it seemed, but she ignored them all. One evening, there was a knock at her apartment door. It wasn't frantic, but heavy, deliberate. She hesitated, then slowly walked to the door. When she opened it, Damian stood there, drenched from the storm, his usually polished demeanor stripped away. "Can I come in?" he asked quietly. Selena hesitated for a breath, then stepped aside. He walked in slowly, like a man crossing a line he couldn't uncross. His eyes scanned the room, not to judge, but to ground himself, as though he needed something real, something solid. "Selena," he began, his voice low and tired. He moved closer, the storm rumbling outside. "I need to tell you the truth," he said finally. "Because if I don't, she'll twist it until you can't tell who I am anymore." Selena crossed her arms, bracing herself. "Then tell me everything." Damian exhaled slowly. "It happened 2 years ago, a night I can't erase, no matter how hard I try." He stared into space as he spoke, memories flooding into his head. "Tiana and I were driving back from a fundraiser upstate. I was drunk, too drunk, I shouldn't have been there, shouldn't have even spoken to her that night, but we fought about everything, about control, about her jealousy, about the way she made me feel like I owed her every breath I took." His hands trembled slightly, but he didn't stop. "It was raining. I remember flashes, her shouting, headlights blurring through the windshield, and then—" he swallowed hard. "Then the crash, the impact, a woman, out of nowhere, and after that, silence." Selena's breathing became difficult. "I was driving," he continued, then hesitated, shaking his head. "I woke up with a seatbelt pressed against me, injuring me even." He pushed his collar aside to reveal a faint line across his right shoulder. "My hands on the wheel, she said I'd killed the woman, that she'd help me make it go away if I did exactly as she said." Selena felt a cold chill move through her. "And you believed her?" He looked at her then, truly looked at her, and she saw the shame in his eyes, the years of torment. "I was terrified, Selena," she said. "The woman had a family, that they'd destroy me if they knew. I didn't even question it. I just accepted it. I let her take control of everything after that, the evidence, the police, the story." "And she's been blackmailing you ever since," Selena whispered. Damian nodded. "Every time I tried to walk away, she reminded me. A text, a photo, sometimes a video clip of that night. I don't even know where she got it. She said if I ever left her, she'd send it all to the press. That she'd make me into a murderer." He let out a hollow laugh, shaking his head. "I tried to live with it, I tried to move on, but I never could. She made sure I couldn't." Selena's throat tightened. "Because no matter how much money or power I have, she owns me, she always has." For a moment, silence filled the room. The only sound was the steady hum of rain against the glass. She studied him. The way he avoided her gaze, the way his hands clenched as if still gripping a steering wheel that night. "If she's been controlling you with this, then it's time to take that power back." He looked at her for a long moment, the weight of her words sinking in, and something inside him, some long-buried spark, seemed to reignite. "Selena," he said finally, "Tiana doesn't forgive, and she doesn't lose." Selena smiled faintly, not knowing how to respond to that, yet her eyes were filled with determination. When Damian left, the apartment felt too quiet, his cologne still clinging to the air. Selena sat on the edge of the couch replaying his words in her mind, the way he'd said he could still feel the seatbelt digging into his chest that night. She pictured him as he spoke, the way he had pushed his shirt aside just enough to show the faint line across his right shoulder. The wrong shoulder. If he'd been driving the car, the belt should have crossed the left side, not the right. She brushed it off at first, told herself maybe she'd remembered it backward, but the thought kept scratching at her. The storm had eased into a soft drizzle by the time Selena opened her laptop. She typed the name of the road Damian had mentioned, Ravenbrook, and scrolled until the headline appeared, one she'd seen before but never really read. One dead in late-night crash. Investigation closed. She clicked it open, her heart pounding softly. The article was short, too short. It listed the make of the car, the time, the road conditions, but no driver's name, just the word source withheld pending private settlement. She leaned back, chewing on her lip. That was strange. Accidents involving a fatality rarely ended quietly, especially not for someone like Damian. Rich, famous, public, there should have been noise. Something else caught her eye, a line buried at the bottom of the article. The victim was struck from behind while walking along the roadside. The words hit her like cold water. His story had mentioned a woman in the headlights, but the woman never saw them coming. Her fingers trembled slightly as she switched tabs, searching next for Ravenbrook crash records, and then insurance claims. The results were scattered, but one name appeared again and again, Tiana Monroe. She wasn't listed as a witness or victim, just a claimant. Her address linked to a repair shop and a payout filed 3 days after the crash. Selena stared at the screen, her pulse heavy in her ears. Tiana had been there, and she'd been the one handling everything after. Not Damian, not the lawyers, Tiana. She pushed the laptop away, rubbing her temples, her mind racing, the wrong scar, the wrong memory, and now the wrong name in the records. Piece by piece the story was shifting, like a puzzle she'd been holding upside down. Selena stood, moving to the window, the city lights reflected in her eyes. She didn't know what scared her more, the possibility that Damian had lied, or that he'd been telling the truth all along, and someone else had rewritten his past, made him believe a lie so long that it had become his truth. She glanced toward her bag on the shelf, the small recorder she sometimes used for work sitting inside. Her fingers hovered over it, hesitation turning into resolve. Tomorrow, she thought, she'd go back to where it happened, to the place Tiana never mentioned and Damian couldn't forget, because now she needed more than words, she needed proof. The drizzle outside turned into steady rain again, tapping against the glass like a heartbeat, and Selena whispered to herself, almost under her breath, "I'll find out what you did, Tian."